For those who do not know me, I am Sharice Josie. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am the owner and founder of CJ Counseling and Consulting Services. And I like to work with the grown woman. So my goal is always to teach you how to increase your boundaries, strengthen your relationships, and decrease feeling overwhelmed. So any topic that I do every week is going to have that same theme in mind. So always keep that in mind. That's the goal. Feel free to drop in comments, questions. If you have topics or something that comes up that you want me to talk about and that you want me to address, my DMs are open. Send in there. I love to hear what you are talking about. So I wanted to first just kind of go back a little bit. And so some of you have watched my lives before. Some of you are new. Welcome. If you're new, just drop a comment, just like, hey, I'm new, welcome, something like that in the comments. How I learned and how I kind of got to wanting to work with the grown woman. And simply, I am she, right? I am that grown woman. I was the box checker. I was the one that did everything that I was supposed to do. I never would have grown up and said that I came from this type of childhood, insert whatever experience. Yes, I had experiences, but I didn't really resonate how those experiences impacted me until I started to get out of the box of going to school, going to college, get a job, get some place to live, get a car, until I got out of all those you must haves and this is your measure of success, that I realized that something was missing. And then I realized as I got older, there was less and less people that were available for me to talk to, right? Because my friends got busy. Then we had just different experiences. Our lives and our thought process became different. And then I realized that my voice was silent. And then I'm thinking, well, who do I go to? So I went to therapy off and on throughout some period of time. That was helpful. Some therapy experiences was like, goodbye, never again. Some were great, but it was still, I'm thinking, how many more women are silenced, right? I'm like, because I cannot be the only silent woman, right? And I'm gonna tell you where I kind of had my first epiphany of this. I had it internally, but in terms of my voice and wanting to share this is when I was in church. And so my father-in-law is a pastor, married to a pastor's son. So we're in church, my two daughters, and we're looking nice. I'm often late to church, can't get there on time. Don't judge me, but I'm usually late. So, I'm coming in church, and I think finally I did a women's workshop, and I was sharing with them just some of my story and some of my life experiences. And they said, I never would have thought that you would have went through something. And I'm thinking, who doesn't go through something? We all go through something. But what it was the perception of all those boxes that was checked. And it was all that exterior why no one knew that I was going through something. So no one asks. Right. And I'm thinking there's more women that are silent. So this is why I created this platform to have this experience. This is why I conduct women's workshops. This is why I have my counseling geared toward women, because we have to have a voice. Okay. So that's me. This is why I'm doing this. So every week I will choose a topic. Sometimes I'll see something on social media that will come up and I will, this is a good topic to talk about. This week, we've been doing a series on relationships and boundaries. And I say we a lot. The we is me, the we is I. I don't know why I say we, but the we is the community and me. So today I want to talk about breakups, divorces, and boundaries. And one of the reasons is because I'm seeing a lot of that on social media lately, of people, announcing divorces and breakups and getting back together. And I made a post about, how do you get through what's some healthy ways to get through divorces? So look on my Facebook page, and it's public. Very interesting responses. And honestly, you do what works for you. But I like these lives to go a little bit deeper than what we kind of think on the surface. Okay. So as we're going through this, Like it, share, comment. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what your questions are. If something comes up and resonates with you afterwards, feel free to send me a DM and just let me know. If you are catching the replay, hashtag replay, and just let me know that you are here. All right. So we're talking about breakups. So anything significant to you, keep that in your mind. Long-term engagements, sometimes we have broken engagements, and of course, divorces. So again, if you caught my lives before, some of you know that I was divorced, I don't know, maybe 16 years ago. No, maybe 16 years ago. I promise y'all, sometimes I forget that I was divorced, right? I mention it, but in my everyday life, I forget. I sat through a whole church service and I didn't realize to the end the topic was about divorces, that it actually applied to me. I literally forgot. But I went through that experience, but I'm so thankful in the most backwards way that I went through that, because it gave me an opportunity to learn more about me. Also working with clients who go through breakups and divorces and just feeling blindsided and just kind of what they go through. I'm thinking this topic is important because it kind of sets the foundation for the next phase of our life. And that's what I want to talk about, the next phase of your life, what that looks like as we move through this process. So, quick disclaimer. If this is fresh for you, you have a fresh breakup. I don't care if you initiated or not, that part does not matter to me. If you have a fresh breakup, you have a fresh divorce, meaning those feelings feel extremely raw. I want you to consider that this may be too much. And the reason why is because you are in the moment trying to survive, and I may be talking about things kind of a little bit post and kind of reflective. When you're in the moment, it's kind of like when you're in the middle of a fire and someone's telling you, well, how did that feel? Get a Band-Aid. You need to sit down. And you're like, no, I'm literally in the fire right now, right? This is how that feels. So I want you to decide, of course, if this is for you now or something for you to come back and catch the replay. I save the live, so you watch them when you want. So if it's too much for you, please feel free to turn it off. You know that anyway. I just want to validate that for you. The reality is, and again, I'm talking to my grown women, so men, if you're watching, welcome. But I'm talking to my grown woman, so no shade, and I'm not trying to exclude. But for women, if we are being a good mother, we're a good friend, we are a good daughter, we are a sister, it is hard to do those roles when we feel like our world is falling apart. And it's hard when we say, now I have to do something that I didn't sign up for. I have to be a single parent now. I have to figure out this one income household. If my child's not doing well, this pressure is all on me, all eyes on me, right? And sometimes the father, usually the mother is the primary parent, right? Not in all situations, I get it. But generally speaking, the mother is a primary parent. And so then the dad gets to look like this great, fun dad, taking them places. And the mom's like, I'm over here struggling. And it can build up a lot of feelings in us, right? So I want to validate that. And I want to talk about this from a healing perspective. I am not my way of dealing with things is not into a trauma and what you're dealing with and what's hard perspective. No, we're going to talk about a healing perspective. We're going to talk about how to move you forward. That's going to be our goal. Okay. So I want you to drop in the comments for me just a number. How long has it been since your last most significant relationship? Whether it's how long you've been divorced, how long has it been since your engagement broke off? How long has it been since you're like, or this is my first significant relationship, right? Maybe you might remember that high school or whatever the case may be. How long has it been? Just kind of drop something in the comments for me, just let you know how long it's been. So I've been married for almost 11 years. Like I said, divorce maybe 16 years ago. I don't know. I forget. But I forget the time period, but I definitely remember the experience. So I'll probably talk about that as we go through this, okay? I want you to let me know, just put a yes or no. Do you feel like you have any residue emotional effects from the relationship? Meaning, do you have still emotions that still resonate with you about this breakup? Do you still have thoughts? Just say yes or no. Do you have thoughts about the relationship? Why did we break up? What did I do? I did everything I was supposed to do. Are you still angry? It's not fair because he did this and that. I felt blindsided. I thought our relationship was good. And then all of a sudden, he ended it. I thought we were good, but then there was infidelity, right? I was at a crossroad. What was it? Like, is there any, you don't have to say what it is. I want you to put your business all out here. That's a private thing, and I want to respect that. If you want to, cool. But do you have any residual effects? Hi, Tiffany. 11 years. Got it. Got it. If so, go ahead and drop that in. I will tell you, did I have any residual effects at the time when I got divorced? Not in the moment. I didn't realize that I did. I was one of those people that grieved the relationship while I was in it. I knew it was ending, and I knew I wanted it to end. I knew it wasn't good and healthy for me. So to this day, it was in November of 2004. That part I remember is when he actually left and I had my locks changed. And I went to sleep that night. I had a friend come over and change my locks for me after he finally left in November 2004. That was the best sleep that I ever got. And in that next morning, I woke up and I realized, you have not slept in 3 years. I got accustomed to dysfunction. I got accustomed to not taking care of myself. I thought it was a phase of my life, but what it was my situation. And then when I woke up the next morning, I said, you will never allow yourself to get that stress and not take care of yourself again. And that was one of the residual effects, one of the things I learned about self-care and understanding myself and my body. That's where the process began for me, right? And then I also learned a little bit more of what I would and would not accept unapologetically. Meaning, I didn't care if people agree with me or not. I don't care if some guy called me crazy. I don't care if some guy called me bitter. There was a few things that I just was not going to accept. I wasn't going to be mad with you about it. I'm not going to talk to you for some long period of time about it. I'm just not going to accept it. That's just where I was. Call it what you want. One of the examples of some things I'm not going to talk about is I don't want to have a long conversation about why this girl that you talk to on a daily basis is your good friend and your sister. No, I don't want to accept her in my life. I don't want to accept her in our relationship. If that's where you are, I will respect that. And that's where we will leave it. And that's just where I was, right? So just think about that. Because I want you to think about that as we go through this, because I want you to understand where your healing and your focus is. Okay? All right, so I want to talk about grief really quickly. And again, this is even if you initiate the relationship, it doesn't matter if you thought this is what was best for you. That part does not matter. There is still grief in the ending of the relationship. I want to say if you agree, drop a 1, but that's just kind of my opinion. There's still grief because there's this unknown, there's this hope that was lost. Maybe you're not grieving the actual person, as they are, but you might be grieving what they represented, right? They represented this feeling of completion, right? Of satisfaction, of I did everything that I was supposed to do, in my lifetime. I thought it was this. Did I get blindsided? You know what I mean? Those types of things. So grief will look like crying. It's going to look like you're not sleeping very well. Your thoughts will be like all over the place. 1 minute is here, 1 minute is there. You start replaying arguments, conversations, situations in your mind. You start going through positive experience, negative experience, but we had this great time and we spent so much time here and we had these great conversations, but then it was this, but then it was that, right? And then you start going over what you said, what you shouldn't have said, what you should have said, all those types of things. One thing I want to clear up for you, and whether you thought about it in this way or not, is that you are not a quitter and you are not a failure, right? The relationship ended. And ending does not mean failing. And I'm saying that because in the moment, did I think that I was a failure or a quitter? No, I didn't think that. I didn't have that conscious thought. However, I was not vocal about what was going on in my relationship. My immediate family had no idea if I was still married or divorced, which told me at some level I was embarrassed. I did feel like a failure because now I had to deal with their emotions and their questions, right? So, retroactive thinking, I probably did feel like I failed because really I married because I thought I was succeeding. If I'm honest with you, that's why one of the reasons. Yes, I thought I was in love in the moment, but I married because I thought I was succeeding. So you're not a quitter and you're not a failure. So what I want you to ask yourself, and this is for my people that may have some lingering, maybe you're feeling stuck, whether you talk to the person that you're no longer with anymore or whether you don't. If your mind is still going, you are still connected. If you are still connected, nothing else can come in, nothing else can go out. That's of value. It just cannot. Okay. So I want you to ask yourself, if I reach out to this person, will his answer provide any value to my healing? That's your question. Will your response provide any value to my healing? Not value to my question, value to my healing. If you think so, reach out. If you don't think so, then I would caution you not to. And typically, it will not add value to your healing because if the person can add value to your healing, you probably will still be together. Because that one feel good answer is going to lead to another feel good desire to ask another question. And here we are in this cycle. And now you are back emotionally connected to this relationship. This person may have moved on, whether emotionally, physically, I don't know. But in either way, they may not be connected to you in that way, but it will leave you stuck and your process will now begin again. You need to ask yourself that question and answer that hard question. Okay. Will you accept their response? If I called my ex-husband now and asked him some question, I can't tell you an example because I have nothing to ask him. But if I called him and asked him a question, will I respect his answer? Probably not, right? Do I think he's a bad person? No, but I think his character is not good for me. Therefore, I will not respect your response to me. Does that make sense? So why am I calling? I don't know. What validation am I seeking? Those are questions I'd want you to ask yourself. Another question, last question, what will I do with this information? Let's say you actually call. Let's say they actually answer. Then what? You have to be able to answer. Then what? If not, you got these bricks on your lap that this person has already left. Again, whether you made the decision, that was your thing or not, either way, you still are now left with this. What are you doing with the information? Right? If the answer is, I don't know, then you might need to go back to the beginning. Do I even need to ask this question? So I want us to do something different. All right. Something different. Here's our something different is I want you to start to focus on you. I want your healing to be about you. And I'm going to be clear about what that looks like because I like for my lives and I like for my work with grown women to be transformational. I want you to get something from this experience. I want you to get a how-to from it. So I want you to focus on you, right? So this means that your ex cannot be your place of solace. I don't care if you think he is a great guy. I don't care if you remember all these great experiences and all this stuff. It doesn't matter. He cannot be a part of your healing. Maybe sometime down the line, you all may connect in some type of way, right? And you get to decide what that boundary and what that way looks like. But when you're in the midst of it, they can't be a part of your healing, right? So what I want you to do, this is a how-to. I want to be very clear, right? I want you to love within your limits of vulnerability. I want you to love within your limits of vulnerability. What that means is that I do not want you to overcompensate for all those grieving feelings that I listed earlier by trying to get that in someone else or something else. You love within your limits of vulnerability by reaching out to people that you feel like are supportive to you. right? You give what you have the emotional capacity to give. If you don't feel like making that phone call, don't make the phone call. If someone keeps reaching out to you and you're like, I don't feel like talking, I don't feel like talking right now. If you even feel like doing that, right? If you're like, I want to connect with someone for this period of time doing this specific thing, and then I want to go back home and just watch a movie by myself, that is connecting and loving within your limits of vulnerability. And that's what I want you to do, because why? I want you to learn to trust yourself again. And I want you to learn how to connect with other people in a way that's authentic to you. Because in this relationship, possibly as you get through the end, you start to violate your own boundaries for the sake of the relationship, hoping that you will work or the person will change, right? I want you to learn to say, you know what? This is what I can give. And this is where I'm at. And I want you to do that. All right. So I want to talk to you really quickly about attachment. All right. So I'm just going to talk about two. There's 4 attachments: secure, anxious, avoidant, and there's one more that I'm missing. But for anxious attachment, I'm going over attachment because I want you to understand how you love. I want you to understand how you love. Okay. So secure attachment is someone who receives love well, gives love well. There's a handful of people who has a secure attachment. Probably not one of them. Maybe some of you are, but that's what that is. Anxious attachment. This is where someone who grew up with a caregiver who may have been inconsistent or unpredictable. Okay. So how that look like in your behaviors? Maybe a little neediness. Maybe you have extreme emotional response to things to get other people's attention. Now, what is extreme? You get to define that. You get to define what extreme is, right? But that's what that looks like for anxious, right? You want the person, you need the person, you'll do things hoping that the person's going to respond to you. You take your own inventory on that. The other one is an avoidant attachment. This is where the parent or caregiver that you grew up with is not really sensitive to your needs as a child when you're in distress. Right? Maybe they're good in all these other ways, but when you're in distress, they're just like, too much crying, too many tears, like here's a tissue and kind of drop it in your lap or something. Your behaviors is that you're less likely to avoid showing up emotionally, and you're emotionally distant in relationships. Why? You want the relationship, but you're in the relationship kind of with a block a little bit, right? So because you don't want to get hurt. You don't want to be dismissed, right? Because you have this emotional reaction as you were taught to do when you were a child, okay? So typically, anxious people are drawn to avoidant people. Okay. So if you're anxious, you want this person, you want this, right? The avoidant person who doesn't is a good chase to prove to you that you are worthy. They are there to prove to you that I'm a good person. I'm lovable. Someone can want me. Someone can want to be with me, right? That's why sometimes anxious people are drawn to avoidant people. This is information that you have to know about you, because you have to know when to run. You have to know when to run. So this example doesn't necessarily fit in this category, but I used to be a very angry person, just to put it simply. I could fun and all that, but typically if I would sum me up, I was an angry person, meaning that I could cuss you out. Somebody want to try it, I'm here for it, all those things. Now it just doesn't serve me any well. But I had a good guy friend. We were just friends, and he wanted to date, but he also was an angry person, can cuss people out with the best of them. And he, down the line, he's like, wanted to be in a relationship. And I said, wait a minute. If you're angry and I'm angry, who's going to calm whom down when we get into something? Right? I had to have that self-awareness to know that. If I did not, I could have gotten caught up in the somebody wants me, he knows me, we've known each other for a long time. Bam, now we're in this destructive relationship. You have to learn and understand what your attachment style is, so you know who you're drawn to and why, and who you need to run to. And I don't care how good he looks, how good he smells, and how good he sounds. You know the character of him is not good for you. I need to run. All right. So why do we keep going back So have you ever broken up with someone, but y'all still keep playing with each other? Yeah. Yeah. So why do we keep going back? Because we are drawn to people who activate our wounds. We know what to expect. We know how it feels. And it's another chance for us to try to get it right, or at least to feel good in the moment. That cycle we want to break. We want to break that cycle, because if you want a healthy relationship, you have to have healthy relationship behaviors. All right. If that's making sense, let me know. Drop something in the comments and just let me know if that's making sense to you. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to label this as passion, right? Or a bond, right? It says we have something in common. We're still drawn to each other. We're not together, but we still hang out sometimes. We still have sex sometimes. We still do all these things, right? You think it's a bond, there still must be something there. What's bonded is sex and trauma. That's what you're bonding over. And in the moment, both of those can feel good because one is familiar and the other one can feel physically good, right? In the long run, they're both emotionally unhealthy. That's what you want to break if you want to get to a healthy relationship. That's what you want to do. All right, so just a few stuck points. And you all drop in some comments if there's some stuck points that you can think about that maybe I'm missing. Maybe you're trying to salvage the relationship, or you're questioning, is it salvageable? We've been together for X amount of time. To me, time frame doesn't matter, but we've been together for an X amount of time. We've had these experiences. Can we salvage this relationship? That's a question sometimes. What I want you to ask yourself is, what exactly are you salvaging? What are you salvaging? And it has to be very clear and specific. The relationship is not a good enough answer. It's not a good enough answer. You want to know, what am I salvaging? And are you salvaging you, or are you salvaging both of us? And if you're the only one salvaging, then that's a problem. Okay? That's a problem from your emotional well-being if you're the only one that's salvaging that. Does that make sense? So you have to be able to answer that question. What am I salvaging? Are you salvaging hope? Because you have to look at the person. If the person and say, you know what, maybe I was in a place and now I need to do my work. What's that work you need to do? Maybe he was in a place he needs to do this work. What is the work that he needs to do? And then can you all do that together? This is a process, and has nothing to do with sex and sleeping with each other. And just because you called and text. We have to look deeper than that, right? Is it temporary? What's next? Are you going back just to see? Right? So just a quick, just to see my ex-husband one time, he had moved out, and I don't know, I was kind of done, and or at least I felt like I was done. And so he's like, well, you want to come over? And I said to myself, you know what? Why don't you go over and just see how you feel? Now, I wasn't as in tune to my body and experiences as I am now, but I said, okay, I'm going to go over and I'm just going to see if I can just tolerate just being in his presence. I just wanted to see how I was going to respond, like how much of this was in my head and how much of this was reality. And I wasn't sure. And I was like, I really kind of wanted to know. So I went over to his place, and we were sitting, he had a futon. I ain't laughing at futons, no shade to futons, but we're sitting on this futon. And I felt so uncomfortable sitting next to him. Like nothing about that felt comfortable to me. And in that moment, I said, you're done and you're at peace with it. You're at peace with it. Because if I don't even feel emotionally safe to sit next to you on a futon, right? Like this is going nowhere. And I left just feeling better. I don't know. I felt like a weight was lifted off of me. And then I knew that my work was all with me now, and that it had nothing to do with him. There was nothing about him that needed to involve me in my healing, if that made sense. All right. So why, right? Am I going back just to see? And that time I wanted to see, but I was very clear. So I know I worked with a couple and they broke up, and the girl was still sleeping with the guy. Now, what problem they had in their relationship? Infidelity. Do you think sleeping together was helpful? No. And I asked her and I said, tell me what is it with the still having sex with him. Come tell me what your thoughts are about that. And she said, well, I want him to see what he was missing. And I want to see if we still had a connection. So she was putting a Band-Aid over a huge wound and wasn't dealing with her issue or his. Right. That's just to see. That's probably not the best way to go. You know me, I'm a therapist, so I'm always going to recommend therapy. I went to therapy afterwards. I had a great supportive friendship network. I tried a lot of different things, but go to therapy, do something different. You have to learn the new you. Your goal is not to get back to whoever you were before that, because that person no longer exists. This person now has experiences. This person now has a new emotional toolbox, and you need to understand what all that means. So you get to go on an exploration about who you are now. And I want you to have fun with that. Yes, it can feel scary if you sit and think about it long enough, or you can just get up and go and say, you know what, today I'm going to try this, then I'm going to go run a couple of errands, and then tonight I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to try this, run some errands or do whatever, go to lunch with some friends, and then I'm going to spend some time just with me. And you have to get used to being just with you, because that person lasts longer, right, than anything else, of just understanding just being with you. So a question, and this is someone that we were talking in my messenger, and I kind of pulled out this question that she had because I thought it was a very good question. She said, how is it that someone who I felt like was my soulmate and that I loved so much could do the things he did to me and made it so I cut ties with him? All right, so I'm going to read it one more time. She said, how is it that someone who I felt like was my soulmate and I loved so much could do the things he did to me and made it so that I cut ties with him? So do y'all hear what I hear in that? That relationship was very one-sided, and it was about her. Right? Now, I don't mean that in a bad way, but we as women, we're nurturers, we're caretakers. So then we take on all these problems and we make it our own to fix. Right? Like, this is my role, that kind of supportive wife, this supportive girlfriend. I'm going to show him I'm a good woman. I'm going to do all these things for him. And then we're going to do these things together. We're going to have fun. But did you actually connect emotionally? Did you know where your emotional limits are? How much you can give? Did you know where there was? Were you in the position to receive those things? How did you love somebody so much that they can do the things that they did to me? Because it had nothing to do with you. The things that my ex-husband did, I promise you, ain't had nothing to do with me. And I was like, I'm not taking any of that mess on. That's all his stuff, and I'm going to leave it there. But I am going to take my lessons, right? I am not going through all of that and not learning and taking some lessons. Take and learn your lessons, right? I'm not wasting time. That's just my own philosophy. You have yours. I'm not going to waste my time. But that's his things. And it made it so I cut ties with him. Your healing, your growth, and your future is your responsibility. And I want you to continue to make it your responsibility, right? Even when you're in a relationship, when you're ending a relationship, or you're grieving and going through your next phase of life, your healing, your growth, and your future then becomes your responsibility. When I got divorced, I had goals. I had long-term goals. I had short-term goals. I'll be honest with you. One of my goals was I didn't want to be a bitter woman, right? And I can define bitter for me. I had examples. I was like, I don't want to be that. Then I had to back it up. Well, how are you not going to be that? I need to pay attention to my emotions. I need to own my stuff. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm a good woman, but I got some stuff with me. I need to understand what man is able to deal with that and support me in it, not fix it. That's not his job. That's mine. I need to understand what that was. But who can support me in my journey, because it's ongoing, to deal with those things? All right. So y'all let me know if y'all have any questions or any comments. Y'all can drop them in the chat after the live. It will be here. It will be saved. Love to hear from you. If not, I will see you next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Facebook and Instagram, kind of like them, see how it looks, doing both, trying to juggle both, but do both. But in the meantime, I want you all to keep moving those expectations. All right, I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.